Hello, hello, hello for everyone who's joining. Thank you so much for waiting for 5 minutes for us. But that's how it works. If you ever been on a concert or in the theater, you know that nobody ever starts on time. That's not how it works. You have to be prepared. You have to get some coffee, some tea, I don't know, some water. Maybe if it's evening for you, some wine, beer, whiskey. I don't know. It depends. I'm not like definitely telling you what to do, but it's always that way. But welcome everyone. Welcome, Jika. Always happy to have you, happy to talk to you. We had a great conversation some time ago at Freelance Drive and Freelance Sucks podcast, and it looks like we are back. Not with the same topic, but with a really very new, exciting topic. And yeah, I'll be happy to wait for. God damn it, I'm losing my English words, but I'll be happy to learn from you. So let's start. Let's start. So everyone waited for enough time, and let me introduce what will happen and why we all here. So first of all, as always, welcome everyone. Once again, welcome Jike. Thank you so much for coming for 9 a.m. webinar. I'm super happy to have you as a guest and to have all our amazing listeners as participants at this 9 a.m. webinar. And my name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at 9am.works and Code Control. I'll be kind of a host for today. And our guest today is GK Peter, a boutique content marketing agency owner, Vampire Digital, once heard, always remember, who helps VIP clients to be heard, seen, and known in their categories, and also the creator of ThinkBait, a movement challenges the rise of clickbait and AI regurgitated content. And today we are here to talk about when and how to use AI, about ethical questions, legal uncertainties, and how it can help you stay competitive while still maintaining originality, credibility, and hopefully legal compliances. And before handing it over to Jike, I'll tell you about the structure of today's webinar. So I'll quickly explain what's going on, then I'll tell you what 9am.works and what we do, and then we'll go and listen to Jike's experience. And finally, get ready, prepare your questions, because at the end of the webinar, you will have time, hopefully, for a little bit of FAQ. So if you have questions, add them to the Q&A section or in the chat, and then we'll talk about them later. So 9am.works is all-in-one tool you need as a freelancer that brings you more jobs faster and with less effort. Whether you're just starting or growing your freelance career, 9am will help you with getting new clients by creating an amazing profile, having all projects in one place, and even deliver to your inbox, and super quick one-click apply for connecting with projects and show recruiters details to follow up easily, and many more great things. Also, we have a supportive community of freelancers. We have Freelance Thrive and Freelance Sucks podcast, where over 90 seasoned freelancers share their experience. By the way, where Jiki was a guest some time ago too. And Freelance Academy, where you get everything you need to get clients, knowledge, templates, checklists, experts advice, and community by your side. So also, last but not least, we are co-creating the Freelance Unlock Conference, an amazing place for freelancers and solopreneurs in Europe and around Europe, like everywhere in the world. It depends on how much you like to travel, but to level up their business careers. If you are in Berlin or open to travelings and don't have a ticket yet, you're missing out. Sorry, not sorry. So go to freelanceunlock.com and grab your ticket right away. And just like that, I'm giving it back to you, Jike, and let's rock.
No pressure, let's do this. Thank you so much for that lovely intro, Yuri. And hi, everyone. As Yuri said, I'm Jike, founder of Vampire Digital, and the slightly feral mind behind ThinkBait, which is a concept born from an allergic reaction to clickbait, beige content, and anything generated without an ounce of actual thought. That's what ThinkBait stands for. And today we're sinking our fangs into a subject that's, for me at least, in equal parts exciting and, to be honest, worrying. AI and the future of content creation. That's what we're here to discuss today. And so imagine it as standing at the edge of a cliff with a jetpack on your back, and you're either about to fly high or spectacularly faceplant. So whether you're here out of curiosity, caution, or maybe a desperate need to understand what to tell your clients when they say, can't you just ChatGPT it? Welcome. Let's begin. Can we have the next slide, please, Yuri? Okay, so we need to talk about why this matters. And, ChatGPT and large language models now have been with us for over 2 years, right? And so you probably noticed it already that AI is shaking up our industry really brutally with the delicacy of a toddler let loose on a birthday cake. And LLMs like ChatGPT have become really important productivity tools for many of us in no time at all. And while that does sound like a dream, we are quickly finding out that this dream, unfortunately, comes with a fine print. And a fine print is something that most of us don't bother with, right? We skim over that part. Yes, AI is fast. Yes, it's prolific, but it also raises questions we haven't fully answered yet. Who owns the words? Whose voice is it really? And where does human depth end and machine mimicry begin? So as freelancers, we're not just watching from the sidelines, right? We're in the thick of it, in the center of this, what feels like a tectonic shift. And at the end of the day, we are the ones being asked to deliver faster, cheaper, and can you make it sound a bit less AI while still crafting work that's original, engaging, and legally sound? So what can we do? Pandora's box is well and truly open. AI is changing the game, no denying that. But whether it helps us succeed or fail, that depends on what we do next. Next slide, please. So we've arrived at the ethical crossroads. And so AI can spit out 5,000 words on any topic in under a minute. But we have to ask an important question, and especially as freelancers, writers, marketers, or brand guardians, does fast always equal great? And I think you already know the answer to that question. We are seeing the rise of what I like to call the 50 Shades of Beige era. And I'm sure you see me if you follow me on LinkedIn, if we're connected, you see me mention this phrase a lot lately. 50 Shades of Beige content, where every second post sounds like it's been produced by the same overly polite, super competent robot with a very limited emotional range, because it's simply not human, right? It's an algorithm. And while that might be fine for standard FAQs, it's disastrous for brand differentiation, and it's actually shockingly damaging. Do you know why? Because if you start sounding like everyone else, you become instantly forgettable. And there's even a bigger risk. We start to internalize this ease of creating, right? We get seduced by the speed. We forget the joy of the hard-earned phrase, the unexpected metaphor, the voice that makes someone pause, scroll whilst they're scrolling and think, hang on a minute, who wrote this? Ethically, we are entering murky waters too. If a client hands you an AI draft and asks for a polish, how much rewriting make it yours? If an AI tool was trained on thousands of human written blogs, do we owe something to those voices, right? To those writers, those creators who spent hours and hours writing that piece of blog post? So to me, and a lot of experts I've been speaking in the process of researching for my book, Think Bait, we are all thinking that this is no longer a technical dilemma. It's an ethical and a philosophical one too. and it has long-term consequences, right? So if we don't pause to think, truly think, we'll probably end up sleepwalking into an online ecosystem where the craft is gone and everything reads like a terms and conditions page, 50 shades of beige nonsense. And we don't want that, do we? Let's have the next slide, please. So then we have a huge challenge ahead of us. We need to somehow preserve the human creativity. And that doesn't mean we ignore AI, right? Progress is progress after all. And AI is a great tool, a clever one, yes. Occasionally surprising, often useful, but it's still a glorified assistant with no actual understanding of what it's saying. You, on the other hand, you are a chaotic, brilliant, irreplaceable thinking machine. You have instincts, emotional memory, a weird sense of humor, sometimes, can't be just me, and the ability to string together a sentence that feels like a gut punch or a love letter, or sometimes both. So freelancers who take the time to think, to question, and to create from a place of actual human experience will always, always be in demand, because the cream always rises to the top. And I'm noticing this more and more, just the example of my agency where we initially lost clients because of, let's be honest, ChatGPT, because I could see that they were posting using ChatGPT soon after they left my agency. Those same clients are now coming back to us and are willing to play premium for human written content. So like I said, the cream always rises to the top. And we're not just hired for output, right? We're hired for discernment, for taste, for knowing when a line lands and when it doesn't, right? So that is your unique differentiator. That's what makes you you and not sound like everyone else using ChatGPT. So the future belongs to those who still care about the craft, even when a robot offers you a shortcut. So let AI lay the bricks, if it helps you, of course, but you have to decide what you're building. That's very important. So let's move on to our next slide, please. So intellectual property and legal risk, this is becoming serious now. The law, bless it, is trying to keep pace with this, what feels like technological arms race. And it's still tying its shoelaces. It's not left the finish line yet. As of towards the end of 2023, the US Copyright Office declared that purely AI-generated works can't be copyrighted. If there's no human hand involved, you can't claim legal ownership over that work. The EU, they're a bit more, I would say, traditionalist, and they've taken a stern parental approach. Their stance is quite clear so far, and authorship belongs to the people, not predictive algorithms. In other words, no matter how clever your tool is, if there isn't a human involved in a meaningful creative capacity, you don't get rights over the output. So why should this matter to you as a freelancer? Because clients and some freelancers are now blindly uploading AI copy, AI written words, and assuming it's theirs to claim, but it's not legally and definitely not ethically. But people have different tolerance levels when it comes to ethics, right? But if AI played the primary role and you simply skimmed it, maybe changed a few words before hitting submit, you are on a very wobbly legal ledge there. So this is where knowing the law is super important for your protection and for your clients, for your own work, no matter what you write, and for the entire freelance economy. Basically, don't let AI ghostwrite you out of ownership. And I see that you guys are adding some comments and questions. We will respond, or I will respond to questions at the end. So please keep those questions coming as you remember them. So let's move on to our next slide, please, Yuri. Now let's look at actual case studies, and there will be more of these to come, I'm sure. Time for a bit of courtroom drama. Getty Images, I'm sure you've heard of this large company. They are known for charging £300 for a photo of a spoon. And Getty Images is now taking legal action against Stability AI for allegedly feeding millions of their copyrighted images into their AI model without so much as a "do you mind?" The case is still ongoing, and the first trial date will be set for June this year. And that I'm sure that will be a precedental case, so one to keep an eye on. In the meantime, before I go on to the next case study, just before this webinar, I was reading that the UK government has recently launched a consultation looking into copyright and AI. And specifically, they are asking whether companies who train AI models should be legally required to reveal what materials they've used. So if transparency becomes the law, creators like you and me would finally have proof if our content was hoovered up and used to train AI. But of course, that goes both ways. If you are using somebody else's content unknowingly because ChatGPT won't tell you, then you could be in great trouble here. Imagine being able to see a list that says, yes, your blog post, your client work, your website copy was all used to teach this tool. So of course that opens the door to accountability, to royalties, to maybe even stopping your work being used without permission in the first place, right? So as freelancers, as writers, and let's be honest, all of us who are freelancers have to become our own writers, as well as occasionally or often writing for our clients. This could be a huge shift, because right now, as it stands, our work can be taken, fed into the machine, and spat back out as someone else's new idea. And you will never know unless you accidentally come across your work. So in the literary world, the Authors Guild is leading a class action lawsuit against OpenAI, who is owns ChatGPT. And they're claiming that their works, actual books written by actual people, were used to train large language models without their consent. It's essentially creative robbery. That's what's been happening. So the lesson here is, even if something looks like new content, if it was generated by a system trained on copyrighted work and there was no transformation, interpretation, or meaningful human input, then that output lives in a legal grey area. And once it's on the internet, you don't know who's going to come across it and who's going to have a problem with that. So you might still be liable. You might not own what you think you do. And in a worst case scenario, you could deliver work to a client that later becomes the centerpiece of a copyright infringement case. So it's serious. Before you click generate, you should ask yourself, where did this really come from? And is it worth risking your name, your reputation, your client's trust, and possibly your income over just some lazy content that you don't rewrite? So no, I know this is a bit of a serious tone, but it's not all doom and gloom, I promise you. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Now, there are good use cases for AI when it comes to copywriting specifically, and everything you produce for your freelance business is copywriting one way or another, right? So, I want to give AI the flower it deserves, the flowers it deserves. There are times where it genuinely earns its keep. When you're looking at a blank screen, let the bot throw some spaghetti at the wall, see what it comes up with. If you need 10 headline variations quickly, easy. Want to rewrite a boring product description for the 5th time this week? Let ChatGPT warm up the engine a bit. That's fine as a starting point. For me, where AI really shines is the heavy lifting of low value tasks, where you have to repurpose a webinar into quick bullet points, translate dry data into something readable, or giving you a first rough draft. And then you can work around that, make that into something real, something that really sounds like you. The way I like to describe this process is think of it like a dishwasher. It saves you time and energy. You don't have to do it by hand, but you still need to scrape off the gunk before you load it. So use AI to speed things up, but not to outsource the whole thinking process and then the whole creative writing process. Let's move on to our next slide, please. So when are the cases where your voice is completely non-negotiable, because some content demands a pulse, and AI, clever as it may be, still has the emotional depth of a dishwasher sponge, if we're sticking with the dishwashing analogy. For example, if you're working on a brand story that needs to connect with people, if you're ghostwriting for a founder with a really razor-sharp tone and a specific point of view, or if you're writing thought leadership that needs to take a stance, and this will be the case for a lot of freelancers, then AI in these cases will fail you every single time. Trust me, I've tried that from day one. As soon as ChatGPT came out, it's better the devil you know, and it's really not there, and it won't be there because it's algorithmic, it's predictable. It doesn't know how it feels to win an award, lose a client, fall in love, fail miserably, and bounce back with a story that really changes how people see you. And really, readers know. We are biologically wired to detect when something is off, and trust evaporates the moment we sense lies and inauthenticity. So if you're writing anything that builds a bridge between brand and audience, person and platform, I would say keep your hands firmly on the keyboard, not on ChatGPT's prompt. Your voice should not be the decoration. It really has to be the overarching strategy of everything that you write, so the real you comes across in every piece of content, every piece of email, newsletter, blog posts, LinkedIn post that you write. Okay, so how to use AI ethically, which will be our next slide, please. And I want to give you a kind of unofficial freelancer code of honor when it comes to using AI. And the first very important point is transparency. If you are using AI to support your process, even if it's just for early ideas, don't hide it. I always tell my clients that if I've done market research and I want to come up with content pillars for their LinkedIn strategy, I will say, look, I've researched it with ChatGPT. These are the content pillars we can use based on the market research that I've done. Clients really respect honesty, and really, I would say increasingly audiences expect it too. So you don't need to slap made with ChatGPT sticker on everything. But I would say if AI had a role in shaping that outcome, it's better to be open about it. And then my second code of honor here, always be the editor of your own work. AI will say things that sound right until you realize it's just confidently wrong. It has no concept or context of tone or nuance until you put it there. So polish, rewrite, trim the fluff. You need to add the magic of you. And finally, understand that these tools what these tools actually do, because they have their limitations. They don't invent anything new. They don't feel, and they don't dream in color or think in metaphors like the human mind does. They literally remix billions of data points into plausible sounding sequences. That's not creation to me. It's just computation. So use AI wisely, but never let it do your job for you. And so moving on to our final thoughts. Next slide, please. Pandora's box is well and truly open. AI is not going anywhere. It's already changed how we work, right? And it will continue to shape the creative industries, and not just the creative industries, really, but as a freelancer, I think that's a particular point there for us, because we have to work in creative ways to make our voices heard and seen. So whether we work with it or ignore it, AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. But it's not all doom and gloom, like I said. Well, I do have some good news for you. Your mind is still the most powerful tool. Your originality, your judgment, your lived experiences. These things can't be replicated, no matter how many terabytes of data an AI model has been trained on. So use AI the way a master architect would use a blueprint drafter. You can let it sketch the outlines, the bones, but never let it design the cathedral. You are the one who brings the story, the soul, the spark that turns words into meaning and into feeling. And if you want to thrive as a freelancer, learn the rules. Stay informed, protect your work, protect your voice. Those who understand the tech and the ethics will be the ones leading the pack and not getting left behind. As I like to say, the cream always rises to the top. So you need to maintain that status of you being the cream, right? Okay, and then final slide, please. Question time. And I want to add a few thoughts here before we move into the questions. Have a think about what's keeping you up at night when it comes to AI and your freelance business, AI and content, writing content for your freelance business. And what are your clients asking as well? What gray areas are you still unsure about? And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I might know the expert who has all the answers. Any practical questions or philosophical musing, please throw it in the chat. I'm here for all of it. And I want to say at the end as well, I will be sharing a little bonus resource, a one-pager, which Yuri, I think you can email out to all the attendees. It will be something really practical you can refer to whenever you're stuck between, should I write this or should I prompt this? It will be, I promise you, it will be quite useful. So let's move on to the questions. I'm just checking the chat now.
Yes, for everyone, I would propose that it would be better to add questions to Q&A part of Zoom,
Okay.
because it will be like easier to see like that's exactly the question. And also, GK, yes, thank you very much for opening such an interesting topic, because I know so many people who are just like, I will chat GPT everything, like this word MacGyver and everything. I will chat GPT, and like we have this word, go Google it instead of go find it. And I feel like currently some people are switching the word, not go create it, but go chat GPT it. So there is a question from Nando. Are clients truly coming back already and paying a premium for human created content?
Yes, I have had two clients so far come back, and older clients are still in contact, asking me questions. It's for some of them is a matter of budget. That's why they are choosing to go with AI, but they still very much need the human input. So they want my team, my agencies to very much still drive their content strategy, even if they can't afford to work with human copywriters. So yeah, absolutely. We have two clients who have come back, and there are clients who can't yet afford to come back to work with us, but we are still helping with their strategy. So they are we are holding their hands to write human written content. Okay, so the next question there, can I be held responsible for content delivered by AI I deliver through an application I built? I mean, yes, there would, unless I would say add something in your user terms and conditions and say you can't be, you have to protect your business there and the tool you build. As long as you have a disclaimer there, and I'm not a legal, God, I'm knocking my microphone in. I'm not a legal person, of course, I don't have the legal background here, but I would say consult someone on this. But my gut instinct would be, as long as you have clear user terms and condition where you clearly lay out the fact that the answers delivered, the content delivered by AI, is you're not responsible for it because you're not the source for that information. So make that clear. And then looking at the next question, when it comes to meta titles and description or Google Ads content, it's very helpful. Of course, it reduces the time I spend on checking character limits. Any tip on how to review that, then this kind of content, since it's very repetitive somehow? The way I would work this is give ChatGPT plenty of context about the target audience, about the goals you want to achieve with that particular ad. The more context, the more background information you give. Obviously not too sensitive. It depends on the clients and how sensitive their data is. The better it will be, the better ideas it will come up for the same ad description. And I do know of ad agencies who use large language models successfully, but they train it with past data from successful ad campaigns that they've run, so it understands their style and what works. I hope that answers the question. James, many thanks for this interesting presentation. Are you coming across legal clauses governing the use of AI in your contract? Oh, that is, I'm not sure if I can answer that question today. Are you coming across legal clauses governing the use of AI in your contract? Okay. So we clarify in our contract that we only use, we add a clause that we only use AI for researching and top level ideation. Then we take that offline. We don't write it with AI. I haven't had a client demand this off of me yet. But if they do, we would just agree and add that to our contract, absolutely. Okay, next question. Frankie, what can we do to ensure our content is protected from AI, maybe from how we publish or from a local? Yes, so this is tricky because once you upload everything online, and with the exception of few platforms, I think Substack, if you publish anything on Substack, I might be wrong here, but I seem to remember reading this recently that content is protected. But anything on social media, it's not protected. Anyone can just grab your content and train AI. Sadly, we can't stop it at the moment. But like I said, I know the UK government is reviewing IP when it comes to AI, and there will be new legislation coming out here. So I would say better safe than sorry in terms of using AI content. But at the moment, us as authors, we don't have protection. So anyone can reuse our content. But to be honest, that was the case before ChatGPT came along too, right? There are plenty of people plagiarizing written material. So you can set up alerts for certain keywords that you use that are very proprietary, maybe to your IP. And I would set up Google keywords. And if anybody publishes anything with those keywords, you'll get an alert. Then you can, do a cease and desist legal letter and ask them to take that down. And generally that's taken seriously, depending on where the person who's stolen your content is geographically. Bjorn, hi Bjorn. We often have interesting and stimulating debates about this topic on LinkedIn with Bjorn. So your question, so technically, how does human creativity work, since you state so confidently that it is not repurposing statistics or taking things from others? How is human creativity different from a statistical parrot? Well, our creativity is hugely influenced by our lived experiences, right? And by the weird and wonderful way we make connections and form a sentence and how we express ourselves. That is not, unless you feed all of that into an AI, into your own trained GPT, and then ask it to create further thoughts based on the average of all your usual thoughts. Why would you do that? Why would you not go through the amazing process of creating your own thoughts and sentences and written material? For me, it's a philosophical question there as well as ethical, you know?
I have a
Okay.
few questions from my side. So,
Yes.
how do you think AI changes the way we think?
Yes, that's quite a, I want to say, a poignant question because I've been speaking with a few experts, linguistics professors, University professors in pursuit of my research for my book. And they are already seeing some alarming things, you know. Students are using AI, typical AI language in their communications now and not noticing, and that's scary, right? When their communication becomes almost sterile, like grammatically perfect, sterile, and very chat GPT sounding. They are also noticing the loss of kind of temporary IQ points and critical thinking skills when it comes to making a good point, stating a good argument, because they have been over relying on AI. And this is now, there are open studies about this. If people Google it, there's a recent one done by Google, who has a vested interest in AI development. If Google is worried about university students over relying on AI, then there's a serious problem. That's a serious problem, right?
You told us it was in your presentation that thinking is your biggest asset, and I'm curious, you personally, how do you train your thinking?
So writing is thinking in action. So one way of training your thinking is writing. But how do you become a good writer? One is doing, but two is constantly developing your vocabulary, constantly having your thoughts challenged. And the best way to do that is to be a prolific reader and read everything, the good and the bad. Because how do you know what's bad writing if you haven't experienced it with your own eyes, with your own thoughts, right? Analyzing that piece of writing. Um, you cannot become a great writer unless you read from great authors and from bad authors, right? And the best book I've read on this is Stephen King's On Writing, which is part memoir, part kind of a manual to the craft of writing. And it is recommended reading, absolutely. And for anyone who wants to work, even if it's just for their own business, for their freelance business, in this noisy online ecosystem, right, which is becoming noisier. 90% of everything that's online right now has been dumped on the internet in the last 2 years. 90% of everything. That's scary. So then how do you become known? How do you stand out? Not with AI regurgitated nonsense.
Like it's more about those personalities. That's exactly why we are still having webinars, not just AI written content, because
Mm,
that's exactly where personality shines, and that's exactly the way how we still can learn from humans and talk to humans. And I feel like that's exactly where this communication and community part comes into play. Because what I learned from my experience of talking to like hundreds of freelancers all over the time, that if when you are talking, you are also training your brain, you are training all
yeah.
this muscle. And you know, people have the same challenges. I would say that pretty much like 90% of freelancers have pretty similar challenges, but everyone has their own way of solving them. And you know, when you talk to them, when you collect all this information and find your the best asset that we have is our brain, I feel like that's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So imagine if you use AI as a consulting partner, right? Let's bounce some ideas off of each other. well, yes, you are then talking to an AI who will give you the best possibly predictable answer. But if you're in a room with five people who all have, you know, such unique data points in their minds because of their lived experiences, because of their personal and because of their professional background, you are going to get wildly different perspectives and point of views. And therefore, you might come across a solution or a suggestion that no AI would have given to you because it does not have that human lived experiences and expertise and background. And then the emotional aspect of, you know, the empathy and all the other emotional aspects that we use when it comes to decision making, right? Which AI does not have. It just doesn't because it's not sentient. And you know, once AI becomes sentient, then this discussion is like, okay, well, you then can't predict what's going to happen, right? I've just noticed one question here from Tom. Hi, Tom. We've been recently chatting on LinkedIn as well. How long do you think it will take big companies to realize they have made a mistake letting people go in favor of saving money by using AI? I feel like successful use of AI for me has been more about FAQs to help give easy to understand instructions. What would you say is a good use? I think there's some good talks into blocking crawlers and script. Yeah. I mean, for big companies at the moment, it's all about efficiency and saving money and automation, and that's fine as long as it doesn't come at the expense of losing customers. Now, people are becoming wiser to what AI automation looks like, and I think that's at the point where they start losing customers. That's when they're going to be like, we need people back in this equation. We can't let all of this be done, or at least some people, right? There needs to be the human touch point is still very important here. So yes, scraping tools. I'm not aware of any ones particularly. I know there are tech founders developing tools that are going to, or are, you know, trying to prevent the likes of ChatGPT stealing our content online. I so welcome that because something needs to be done. So yeah, if anyone comes up with that, take my money. And do we have time for another question here? I've just
Yeah, I
noted.
have a few more minutes.
Okay, so Andreas, thank you. Is there AI that does more than reproduce or recompose given content? I mean, there are loads of AI tools, right? There are AI tools that create graphics, that creates charts based on, you know, you can give it some timeline and KPIs and it will give you a chart, not very accurately. And then AI has, like, don't get me wrong, I love progress. Like I work with clients who work in health tech, med tech, education technology with amazing AI tools that they've developed. And they're making a huge difference in their industry. They're making a huge difference in people's health, into people's mental health, to the youth justice system, to reducing reoffending rates in the youth justice system, to improving exam results in schools where you would be scared to walk in. I have some brilliant clients who are working with AI, and we are fully supporting those clients because I believe in what they're doing and they are making a huge difference. But my worry here is that using large language models to kind of fill in the gaps and then filling larger and larger gaps of our problem solving and creative thinking skills, that's where the danger lies. Because then we're gonna end up with a younger generation who's constantly asking ChatGPT to do a piece of research for them, or you know, just write a simple email. Well, where do you draw the line? Because if ChatGPT writes all your emails in 6 months' time, you won't be able to write your own email. Okay, maybe year's time. But I've noticed when I first started using ChatGPT heavily that when it came to me writing on my own, I was like, oh, this is not good. I am losing words from my vocabulary. This is not good. So I had to stop it.
How much do you use AI content at your work at the moment?
So we use mostly, I would say, for technical writing. So if we're working with clients where their industry is heavily technical and it's very clear that AI helps us digest the technical information, then we use AI for that. I will use AI for research, fact checking, for example. and then go through and check the sources because AI hallucinates, just like humans do. And also, AI quite often was quote wrong data, wrong information because that input was wrong, because AI is trained on human created data in essentially. But now AI is cannibalizing its own AI created data that's out on the internet. So this is just going to get more and more murky, murkier even, and more diluted, which is why creating original content is more important, really.
I feel like it's also the beginning of the end, because when people are start creating content with
Mm.
using AI and like some over and over, like few iterations later, it won't have anything to learn from, and it will be like, yeah, pretty much the same, as I call it, shit in, shit out. So
Exactly. That's the only way to put it. I mean, this AI craze will plateau. It's still like new and exciting, but we need to think about applying some breaks where we overuse it. That's it. It's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I love it, and it's it. Some of our processes have become so much more efficient with ChatGPT. But yeah, we can't possibly keep asking it to create blog posts for us uh, and social media posts. It just looks bad. And even if it becomes really good, does it mean we should? Does it mean we should keep letting it write for us? Write out for our voice? Where does it end? If AI writes your content and then you use AI tools to comment, where's the social of the social media if it's just bots talking to bots?
numbers part is social because people are always like, oh, I have this amount of numbers, I have this amount of numbers. So we have at least something to use in our human conversations.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly why I love this kind of conversation, that webinars that we are having and amazing humans we are meeting. So Jike, thank you so much for sharing your experience, for sharing your point of view, and like how do you approach this AI world and content creation and
Yeah.
generation. And I believe that everyone here is already connected with you, but still, if someone is not connected with Jike, please go connect with her. Here is LinkedIn in the chat. You will find a lot of interesting information and sometimes like crazy jokes, but that's how it works. That's exactly
Yeah.
where our human parts without these jokes and without our humanity. And also, please, 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 if you want to overpower your freelance journey, also remember to check up 9 a.m. Some amazing things that we are creating. So yeah, go there, check it out. And yeah, Jike, once again, thank you a ton. See you in online journey from time to time on webinars. Maybe we'll come back to podcasting thing. Why not? So yeah, thank you so much for what you are
Yeah.
doing.
Thank you so much for having me and listening to my nonsense. Hopefully some of it was useful.
Totally. And yeah, see you in the
Thanks,
freelance
everyone.
world.
Thank you. And see you on LinkedIn, guys. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
See you, Jika. See you, everyone. Have an amazing
Bye.
evening. Bye.
Bye bye.